Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of 365 Days of Gaming. I appreciate you taking out time to check out this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Greatly appreciated in advance. Now, sometimes there comes along a game that you end up coming across, right? And your path of being a gamer. You come across these games that have no business being as good as they are, right? There's no reason for them to be that good. And I wanted to highlight one that you may have never heard of, but you also may have heard of it because it did fairly well in sales. And it is a game based on one of my favorite genres, 90s movies. And it's based on 3 different 90s movies all wrapped up into one. We're talking about the Die Hard trilogy, people, for the PlayStation. Now, first and foremost, they could have just given us what Die Hard 1 is, which is a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooting game where you got to rescue people in the building, right, with Hans Gruber and all that. And it's a solid game, not like great or anything, but for a movie game, it is pretty decent, right? And that would have been solid enough. But they added 2 other games based on the other movies. So you have Die Hard, which is a third-person shooter. You have Die Harder, which is a rail shooter like Virtual Cop. And you have Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is a driving game. Now, in hindsight, they could have made a game that incorporated all 3 gameplay phases into one big game, and that would have been great too, right? Just make Die Hard the game. But I kind of like the style of separating each gameplay mode into different movies. They all fit their themes respectively, and I think it's really just cool. And I remember renting this game and being like, all right, if it's solid, cool. If not, it's a rental. We'll just put it up and we'll play like Metal Gear Solid or something over again, or Resident Evil for the umpteenth time. And I end up being pleasantly surprised. And I was even more surprised when I saw it at Walmart one day under the greatest hits list. I was like, wow, they really came up with something that exceeded what I would have thought to be expectations. Now, the game takes a second to get used to as far as the third-person one because of the controls. The rail shooter is pretty self-explanatory, right? You just move the cursor around, you shoot. You're supposed to be saving hostages on the rail shooter. I don't do a good job of that. If you had to ask me which one my favorite is, it's probably the third-person shooter. It's the easiest one to get into and kind of enjoy. The rail shooter is probably the easiest one, but also that's because I don't be paying attention to the hostages, so that makes it a lot easier when I'm just shooting everything that moves. But you should try to save everybody. But you go through each stage depending on what mode you're playing. You have various stages based on the particular movie that you're playing. But it's pretty cool. It's a good representation of the movie. And this is back late 90s when the expectation for any game at this point, I think probably the licensed IPs were probably on a downslope as far as the expectation. So this game was so good that it got a sequel. I didn't play the sequel because there was no reason to play anything besides the original Die Hard trilogy game. And I was kind of irritated that they tried to, do that when they could have just let things be. But also, if something's successful, why not try to do it again? But if you've watched the Die Hard movies, you'll see things that, definitely that you remember. There's a lot of callbacks and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's actually Bruce Willis doing the lines or if it's, they took the audio from the movies. But he's definitely throwing out a lot of yippee-ki-yays and, get out of here's and watch out for that. So it's very nostalgic if you enjoy the movies. Die Hard series isn't like one of my favorite 90s movies, but I definitely give it respect because, it was there. It made noise. It did its thing. And I like Bruce Willis as an actor in a lot of different stuff. Die Hard, not necessarily one of my favorite Bruce Willis's movies. I like the first one a lot, but the other 2, could do with or without. Doesn't matter to me. But I just thought, when I was playing this, like, wow, they really put 3 different games into one, and like they're all solid. And a lot of times you don't get that, especially nowadays when people try to do too much on games. You end up not getting anything worth playing. And this was really cool. In the rail shooter, you got different weapons that you can find, and I like the Virtual Cop aspect of like shoot everything to get all the power-ups and stuff. You're not supposed to shoot everything. Again, you're not supposed to shoot the hostages, but as you can see, I had a little trouble with that. And then with the driving game, probably my least favorite just because it's the hardest and it's like very time constrained. Granted, that's how it was in the movie. They were racing against time, but I just feel like, this game, that mode in particular, gives you no leeway As in the first two, you seem to have a lot more freedom to mess up. And this one is like, you got to do perfect runs, which means you have to know where the bombs are prior to even starting this mode. And I did not, and I was not going to learn. So I tried my best over several attempts. And just like when I was a kid playing this is one I don't care about. So didn't matter that I didn't finish it. But the other two, you know, always had a good time with them, played them a lot, enjoyed them. Was very happy, you know, with that game. And I wanted to show you all because sometimes I think these games get lost in translation. They get lost in the shuffle. And I always think, you know, why not take time out to shout them out while we can before people really forget that they exist. So if you are a fan of the series and you've never heard of this game, look at that. Now you got something to go check out. I'm not sure how you're going to play it. Like I said, don't know if it's on any of the digital services. Probably not. But I'm sure you guys can figure out how to make that happen if you really want to. You know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So yeah, Die Hard trilogy. Solid effort. Wanted to, you know, give them some kudos, some props. Like I said, was successful enough to make it to PlayStation Greatest Hits. And a lot of your favorite games didn't make that list. So, you know, how you like them apples? And I know that's a different movie. Leave me alone. But yeah, appreciate you checking out the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. Peace.